How's it going, everybody? I am ZBilbs and I'm back here today with another metal album review, and today we've got a very special one because a brand new Ozzy Osbourne album is out, and that is Patient Number 9. Now the dude is 73 years old and he's somehow still coming out with stuff, probably with a lot of auto-tune. Not probably, that's definitely the case for this album, but still the fact that they're somehow able to get out another album under Ozzy's name and that he's not dead at this point is miraculous. But I am here today doing a review like usual, so if you've never seen me do an album review before, pretty much I go song by song and I give it a rating from 1 to 5, or if I think it's not worth listening to, then I give it a skip rating. At the end, I'll tally up all the points and give a final rating for the album, and then I'll give some concluding thoughts at the end. Also, you may have noticed this is a new setting. I'm shooting for the first time in my college dorm, so if the audio is a little bit wonky or there's some background noises, then I'm sorry. This is the best I can do. But yeah, without further ado, let's just get into the album. Starting with the title track is the self-titled Patient Number 9. When this came out, I kind of was lukewarm on it. I thought it was like all right. But this song has really grown on me. I don't know, this just really feels like a classic Ozzy sounding song. Jeff Beck just does some really fun riffs in there. The main chorus is incredibly catchy and still feels incredibly new. It really gives me No More Tears vibes. And honestly, this is probably one of I'd put it in my top 10 favorite Ozzy songs. So already starting off with a splash, I'm giving this a 5. And I don't give 5s lightly. For me, anything 3 to 5 is very good. I reserve 5 for some of the top tier songs that a band does. 1s and 2s are still good. But so already I think this is a great song. Also, I'm not going to spend too much time on any which song just because there's 13 of them, technically 12, but I digress. Back to the review. Let's get into the next one. We've got Immortal. So right after the very good Patient Number 9, we get kind of a dud. So Immortal, this has Mike McCready on the guitar, who I don't really know who Mike McCready is, but I thought this one just didn't really do anything for me. The chorus wasn't memorable, the guitar was fine, but it didn't really stick out at all. This just kind of felt like a filler track, and I'm giving Immortal a skip. Moving on, next up we had our first of 4 tracks from Zakk Wylde, which I think is excellent because I love Zakk Wylde. He's one of my favorite Ozzy era guitarists, and this is probably the best track that he has on this album. Once again, this has just got some classic, just nice, heavy, chunky, very distinct Zakk Wylde style riffs on here. That is just incredibly fun. The chorus itself is also just incredibly catchy, just really good as well. It feels like there's some like kind of deeper meaning behind it too. The lyrics are kind of poignant, and honestly, this is probably my second favorite on this album. I'm going to give Parasite a 4. Moving on, next up we've got one of the 2 tracks featuring Tony Iommi, and that is No Escape From Now. Now this one was kind of disappointing because they released Degredation Rules, the other Tony Iommi one, as a single, and that one I was like kind of lukewarm on it when it came out, and I was like, okay, let's just hope the other Tony Iommi one is good, and this one is really just another dud, honestly. There's some good riffs, some distinct Sabbath-y stuff in this song, but the lyrics and the vocals themselves are just uninteresting, just boring. They do a lot of that, I don't know, like reverb stuff at the beginning and end with Ozzy. I don't know, that really like produced style, which is prevalent throughout the entire album, but there's certain songs where it's more prevalent than others. This is definitely one of them where I was just like, this just does not sound good. And although there is, interesting stuff with Tony Iommi, this is overall a most definite skip for me. All right, but bouncing back, it seems to be a kind of a good and bad so far in these albums, because next up we've got One of Those Days featuring Eric Clapton, one of the best guitarists to ever do it, and it's very good in here. I mean, this is just, once again, it's just a very good song. It's more of like a ballad style. It has probably one of the catchiest choruses in here. This chorus honestly has gotten stuck in my head more than other ones. It still feels very distinctly Ozzy, but it's, I don't know, maybe it's a little more radio, just catchy radio rock type stuff. Eric Clapton, I mean, he's not mind-blowing in here, but he definitely has a solid guitar solo. He has just nice, fun riffs. It's not spectacular, but it's definitely one that I have gone back to and listened to a handful of times, and I've really enjoyed it. So I'm giving One of Those Days a 3. But next up, we've got 1,000 Shades. This is the second song with Jeff Beck. And this is another decent one. This one is a little more mellow, a little bit more subdued, but once again, it's still a solid song. It's got some, once again, some nice good work with Jeff Beck in there. The chorus itself, while it's good, it feels, I don't know, a little bit too slow and not really going anywhere. It's definitely catchy. It just, I don't know, it doesn't seem to quite fit quite as well with Ozzy, but all in all, with all things considered with this song, it's definitely one I still enjoy. It's just not a favorite in the album, still a solid song, so I'm giving 1,000 Shades a 2. Moving on, we have got another track with Zakk Wylde, and that is Mr. Darkness, another in the plethora of Mr. songs that Ozzy has. And unfortunately, this is probably the worst Mr. song that I've heard from Ozzy, which is too bad because, you know, once again, I'm a huge fan of Zakk Wylde. Zakk Wylde just has, I don't know, great stuff just in general. His work, even in the songs of his on this album that I don't enjoy, I think Zakk Wylde is just excellent throughout. He has, I think, probably his best guitar solo in the entire album in this track. But I think it's this one. It might be Evil Shuffle, but the way that it ends, no, I think it's this one where I was on the edge of a 1, but like Ozzy does this like cheesy line at like the very end, and I was just like you'll know when you hear it. I can't even remember quite what he says, but it just kind of, I was already kind of lukewarm on the fence with it, and then after I heard it, I was just like, yeah, that's a skip. But there's good stuff in here, just once again, nothing incredibly special, so I'm giving Mr. Darkness a skip. All right, but right off the back of that kind of disappointing Zakk Wylde song, I've got Nothing Feels Right, a better Zakk Wylde song. This is another one that when it came out as a single, I was not a fan in the slightest, but it has definitely grown on me. Now, why I didn't like this one so much is just the fact that although it features Zakk Wylde, it almost feels like he's barely in the song at all, and then he just comes out with a sick guitar solo near the end. This one, it's very kind of like light in its sounding. It is a lot of like kind of background, like lighter sounding stuff, I don't know, acoustics or something, but it's very heavy on the bass, actually. That's one credit I'll give on this album. It has some very good bass work. I know Rob Trujillo has done some work, so maybe it's him, maybe it's somebody else, but it felt very lacking of that Zakk Wylde guitar, except for at the end. But that being said, this is still, despite the lack of Zakk Wylde on this, or significant Zakk Wylde stuff, it's got another fun, catchy, just classic Ozzy chorus, which overall, and then the fact that Zakk Wylde does have a great solo in here, I did end up enjoying this one a solid amount, so I'm going to give Nothing Feels Right 2 points. Moving on to Evil Shuffle. This one, for me, it's kind of the same thing as Mr. Darkness, but it's probably even worse. Whereas Mr. Darkness had some like genuinely interesting musical elements from Zakk Wylde. This one, even less so. It lacks, it feels like even less so of interesting Zakk Wylde stuff, although there is a bit there, and it's lacking an all-right-ish chorus that Ozzy has. This one, it's one of my least favorites on the entire album. It's an absolute just bland filler track, unfortunately, so I am giving Evil Shuffle a skip. Moving on to Degredation Rules. This is another really frustrating track. When I first listened to it, I was like, oh man, this is just a classic sounding like Black Sabbath song. Sounds something straight off of 13. And honestly, like it still does. The guitar work from Tony Iommi, it's like No Escape From Now, but even better, even more distinctly that heavy, doomy, chunky riff that is just so iconic with Tony Iommi, and just the guitar, just the musicality on this is just excellent. But there's a big but. This is called Degredation Rules, and it's about masturbation. It's ridiculous. It's just, the lyrics in this are just not good at all. I mean, they're not terrible, but they're just so freaking cheesy that it's hard to take this song seriously. And for me, this was like, oh man, the music is so great, the guitar, but then you put these cheesy lyrics, and the fact that they're sang by this topic by like a 73-year-old, like it just makes no sense. Whose idea was this? But man, I have come around to this one because I do think the positives do outweigh the negatives, so I'm gonna end up landing on a 2. I can see, if I can get past the lyrics a little bit more, I can see this one going higher. But yeah, that's Degradation Rules. Moving on, we've got Dead and Gone. This one, once again, I was not a fan of it the first time I heard it. It just kind of sounded like a generic filler track. On repeated listening, I've got some enjoyment out of it. It's got a nice, catchy hook in there. There's some actually like pretty like heavy, chunky metal riffs kind of in the background. I wish they're a little more in the foreground. But I think overall, I ended up being like, yeah, that's a good song. It's definitely nothing standout. But overall, I'm still going to give Dead and Gone a 1. And lastly, because I'm not counting Dark Side Blues, that's just really an outro, we've got God Only Knows. I've seen it on a couple reviews. This is like, a lot of people seem to like this one. And I mean, I guess I can see why. This is like the most like ballady of this entire album. There's a lot of stuff about, Ozzy talking about his mortality and all of that. But, Ozzy did the same thing, only better with like Ordinary Man, in Ordinary Man. And this just, I don't know, it's all over the place. It doesn't have any catchy chorus. It doesn't have any especially interesting instrumentality in there. I think maybe there's some like sort of like orchestral stuff. I might have been thinking of a different song, which is like interesting, but it doesn't make it where I'm actually going to come back and listen to this song. So once again, I'm going to give God Only Knows a skip. All right, tallying up all of the points, there's a little bit intricacies here. So if you tally up all of the points from the songs, and then you subtract 1 point for every skip, and then I also have a rule that accounts for when an album is too bloated with skip songs. Every 5 skips, I also detract an additional 3 points, and which this song does have 5 skips, so that's -8 total. So if you do the math, I'm giving this 11 points. So for me, I've got the tiers right here. It's modified a little bit. I think I had it on my Senjutsu review, but this falls roughly in my very good tier. So 11 points. It's although it doesn't seem like a ton, I do consider this, I think it is indeed a very good album. It's not a banger, it's not a master tier, it's far from the best that Ozzy has done, but honestly, I was overall pleasantly surprised with just how many songs like genuinely stuck with me. And I was like, you know what? That's a actually really great song. Like Patient Number 9, the fact that even one song, I think I would end up calling one of my favorite Ozzy songs like ever. Like that's impressive, especially for just the time in Ozzy's life and just the amount of other factors. Obviously, a lot of people have been railing on the amount of auto-tune, the amount of production that is just hampering down this album. And while that's definitely, it's noticeable, for me, it's more so noticeable in other tracks. A lot of the skip tracks I thought had more of that noticeable sort of auto-tune that was wearing it down. But you know what? Ozzy honestly has always felt like he's had a ton of auto-tune. He's not always been like the most top quality singer. So for me, the auto-tune has never really bothered me so much. If you are someone who that bothers you more, then this is probably gonna be, you'd probably give this one like, I don't know, like more so in like the 5-ish, like definitely under a 10. But I honestly, I think it's a very good album. I think if you are a fan of, you know, the just Ozzy stuff in general, I think there is at least 1 or 2 songs that almost everybody can listen to and hear and enjoy. But yeah, that's my review of Patient Number 9. It's a pretty good album. But stay tuned. Coming up soon, I'm going to be re-ranking all of the Ozzy albums. I've already done a ranking. I'm going to be re-ranking with Patient Number 9. A lot of my opinions have changed, so hopefully I'll have that review out soonish. And stay tuned. Let me know whether there are metal albums ranked or other videos you'd like to see in the future. If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe and do all that. But yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.